The market stank of desperation and disinfectant. Zara pressed her back against the cold metal wall of the holding cell, watching potential buyers shuffle past the reinforced glass. Their eyes would pause on her face, taking in the silver streaks that ran from her temples to her jawline, the telltale mark of her Karelian heritage, then drop to where her left leg should have been, and they would move on. 3 days she had been here. 3 days of rejection, of whispered comments about damaged goods and alien defects. The auction house had been generous enough to provide her with a crude crutch, but it only emphasized her disability. Every hop and shuffle reminded her why she was here, why she had made this desperate choice. Next lot, number 47. The auctioneer's voice crackled through the intercom. That was her. Zara pulled herself upright, dignity her only remaining possession. The platform rose slowly, mechanical gears grinding beneath her feet. Harsh lights blazed down as she emerged into the auction hall. Hundreds of faces stared up at her, some curious, most indifferent, a few openly disgusted. The familiar weight of shame pressed down on her shoulders. Half-breed female, age 19, basic education in 3 languages. The auctioneer rattled off her specifications like she was a piece of machinery. Previous experience in data processing and maintenance work. Note the physical impairment, price adjusted accordingly. A man in the front row wrinkled his nose. What happened to her leg? Industrial accident at age 12. The auctioneer replied without consulting his notes. He had memorized her tragedy, reduced it to a simple explanation for her reduced value. Fully healed. No ongoing medical issues. Zara closed her eyes for a moment, remembering that day. The factory where her mother worked had been raided by human-first protesters. In the chaos, a plasma cutter had sliced through the support beam above the childcare area. She had pushed 2 younger children out of the way and taken the full weight of the falling metal across her leg. The doctors said she was lucky to be alive. Her mother said the same thing as she worked 3 jobs to pay the medical bills, slowly killing herself with exhaustion. Opening bid at 5,000 credits, the auctioneer announced. Silence stretched across the hall like a held breath. 5,000 was barely enough for a basic prosthetic, but Zara had hoped someone would see value in her skills, her determination. She spoke 3 languages fluently, could code in 5 programming frameworks, and had maintained a 3.8 grade average despite working part-time since she was 14. For 1,000. The auctioneer's voice carried a note of embarrassment. Still nothing. 3,000. Heat crept up Zara's neck. She had known this was a possibility, but facing it felt like drowning in slow motion. Without the money from her sale, she would never afford the prosthetic. Without the prosthetic, she would remain trapped in the cycle of low-paying jobs that were all her disability allowed her to access. 2,000 credits? A woman in expensive clothing shook her head and whispered something to her companion about throwing good money after bad. A group of teenagers snickered, making crude jokes about broken aliens. Zara forced herself to keep her chin up, to meet their stares with as much strength as she could summon. 1,000. Desperation crept into the auctioneer's voice. The auction house took a percentage of every sale. If she didn't sell at all, they would lose money on her processing fees. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Zara could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes judging her and finding her wanting. This was it. This was how her last hope died. Going once. The auctioneer raised his gavel reluctantly. Going twice. Zara bit her lip hard enough to taste blood. She would not cry in front of these people. She would not give them that satisfaction. Going. 50,000 credits. The voice came from the back of the hall, calm and clear. A ripple of surprise ran through the crowd as heads turned to locate the speaker. Zara squinted against the lights, trying to see who had spoken. 50,000? The auctioneer's voice cracked with disbelief. Did I hear that correctly? You did. The voice belonged to a woman, though Zara still could not make out her face in the shadows at the rear of the hall. 50,000 credits for the girl. The crowd erupted in murmurs. 50,000 was more than most humans sold for, 10 times what anyone had expected for a disabled half-breed. The auctioneer stammered through the formalities, his excitement palpable. This single sale would cover his commission for the entire month. As the platform lowered, Zara's mind raced. Who would pay such an enormous sum for her? And more importantly, what did they want in return? No one spent that kind of money out of kindness. There had to be a catch, a purpose that justified the investment. The holding area buzzed with activity as paperwork was processed and credits transferred. Zara sat on the narrow bench, staring at her hands. Her silver markings seemed to shimmer more brightly under stress, another reminder of her alien heritage. Whatever happened next, her old life was over. Whether that was good or bad remained to be seen. The woman who had bought her was not what Zara had expected. She stood perhaps 5.5 feet tall, with short-cropped black hair and clothes that suggested function over fashion. Dark pants, a simple shirt, boots designed for walking rather than appearance. Most surprisingly, she bore scars along her arms and neck that spoke of hard experience. "My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez," she said as they walked through the processing area. "And before you ask, no, I'm not planning to work you to death in some factory or use you for illegal experiments." Zara hobbled beside her on the crutch, struggling to keep pace. "Then why did you buy me?" "Because I see potential where others see problems." Elena paused at the exit, turning to face her. "Tell me, what do you know about the consortium?" The question sent a chill down Zara's spine. Everyone had heard whispers about the consortium, a shadowy organization that operated outside government control, allegedly involved in everything from corporate espionage to alien rights activism. Most people dismissed them as urban legend. "I know they don't exist," Zara said carefully. Elena smiled, the expression transforming her stern features. "Smart answer. What else don't you know about them?" They emerged from the auction house into the neon-bright chaos of New Shanghai's underground district. Flying cars hummed overhead while street vendors hawked everything from synthetic food to black market cybernetics. The air tasted of ozone and possibility. "I don't know that they help people like me," Zara ventured. "People like you?" Elena guided her toward a sleek black vehicle parked in a restricted zone. "You mean intelligent, resourceful individuals who've been discarded by a system that values appearance over ability?" The car door opened silently at their approach. Inside, Zara was surprised to find medical equipment built into the seats, scanners, monitors, even what looked like a surgical suite in miniature. "Where are we going?" Zara asked as Elena settled beside her. "To get you that prosthetic." Elena tapped a control panel and the car lifted smoothly into traffic. "But first, I need to explain what you've gotten yourself into." As they rose above the city streets, Elena began to talk. The consortium, she explained, was real. A network of scientists, activists, and refugees dedicated to fighting the growing tide of human supremacy that was sweeping across the colonies. They operated in the shadows because open opposition meant imprisonment or worse. "We've been watching you for months," Elena said. "Your academic records, your work history, the way you've survived despite everything the system has thrown at you. You have skills we need." "What kind of skills?" Zara watched the city scroll past below them, vast and indifferent. "The kind that come from living between worlds. You understand both human and Corellian thought patterns. You can move through spaces where pure humans or pure aliens would be noticed. And you have something else, something rarer than any technical ability." "What's that?" Elena's expression grew serious. "You refuse to be broken. 3 days in that market, facing rejection after rejection, and you never stopped fighting. That kind of strength can't be taught." The car began to descend toward a district Zara didn't recognize. Cleaner than the underground markets, but not as polished as the upper levels where the wealthy lived. Buildings here were functional but well-maintained, with gardens that suggested people actually cared about their community. "This is our medical facility," Elena explained as they landed on a rooftop platform. "Dr. Kim is the best prosthetics specialist in the city. He's been working on something special for you." Inside the building, Zara was amazed by the quality of the equipment. This wasn't some back-alley clinic. Everything was state-of-the-art, better than what she had seen in corporate hospitals. Staff moved with quiet efficiency, and she noticed that many bore the same kind of scars as Elena, the marks of people who had lived through violence. Dr. Kim turned out to be a small, energetic man with kind eyes and hands that moved with surgical precision. He examined Zara's residual limb with gentle thoroughness, taking measurements and running scans with equipment she couldn't begin to identify. Excellent bone density, he murmured as he worked. Good muscle tone despite the disability. Yes, this will work very well. What will work? Zara asked. Kim exchanged a look with Elena. Show her. Elena led Zara to another room where a prosthetic leg waited on a specialized stand. But this wasn't the crude mechanical device she had expected. This looked almost organic, sleek curves that mimicked natural muscle and bone, covered in a synthetic skin that seemed to shift and breathe like living tissue. It's beautiful, Zara whispered. It's more than that, Kim said proudly. Neural interface technology adapted from Corellian biotechnology. It will respond to your thoughts as naturally as your original leg did. Better, actually, enhanced strength, improved balance, built-in diagnostic systems. Zara reached out to touch the device, then pulled her hand back. I can't afford this. Even 50,000 credits wouldn't cover something like this. You're not paying for it, Elena said quietly. Consider it an investment in your future. But there is a condition. Here it comes, Zara thought. The catch that made this all make sense. We need you to go back to school, Elena continued. Finish your engineering degree. Learn everything you can about human and alien technology integration. And when you're ready, we need you to help us build a better world. Zara stared at the prosthetic, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. That's it? You want me to go to school? The hardest battles aren't fought with weapons, Elena said. They're fought with knowledge, with understanding, with the ability to see solutions where others see only problems. You've spent your whole life being told you don't belong anywhere. We're offering you the chance to help create a place where everyone belongs. The surgery took 6 hours. Zara drifted in and out of consciousness, caught between dreams of running and memories of falling. When she finally woke, the absence of pain surprised her more than its presence ever had. For 7 years, her phantom limb had ached with ghost sensations, reminders of what she had lost. Now there was only wholeness. Dr. Kim sat beside her bed, monitoring readouts on a tablet. The integration is proceeding faster than expected, he said with satisfaction. Your Corellian neural pathways are adapting to the prosthetics interface remarkably well. Try flexing your toes. Zara looked down at the sheet covering her legs, afraid to hope. She concentrated, sending the familiar mental command that had produced nothing but frustration for years. 5 toes wiggled beneath the fabric. She gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks before she could stop them. Kim handed her a tissue with the practiced kindness of someone who had witnessed many such moments. Take your time, he said gently. This is a big adjustment, physically and emotionally. Over the following days, Zara learned to walk again. The prosthetic felt strange at first, too sensitive, too responsive. She could feel textures through the synthetic skin, register temperature changes, even detect pressure variations that her original leg had never noticed. It was like having a sense she had never known she was missing. Elena visited daily, bringing books and data tablets loaded with coursework. The university had been surprisingly willing to accept Zara's application once Elena made certain calls and arrangements. Her previous academic record, combined with a generous donation to the engineering department, had opened doors that her disability and alien heritage had previously kept locked. You'll be starting with advanced biomechanics, Elena explained during one visit. Professor Chun is a friend of ours. She understands the importance of your research focus. Which is what, exactly? Zara asked. She was practicing balance exercises, standing on her prosthetic leg while performing complex movements with her arms. Integration technology. Ways to help humans and aliens work together instead of against each other. Your unique perspective, someone who is literally part of both worlds, makes you invaluable for this kind of research. As her physical therapy progressed, Zara began to understand the true scope of what Elena's organization was attempting. The consortium wasn't just a resistance movement. It was a shadow infrastructure, preparing for a future where cooperation might be possible. They funded research, provided education, and created safe spaces for those who didn't fit into either purely human or purely alien societies. We're not trying to overthrow governments, Elena explained during one of their longer conversations. We're trying to build alternatives. Places where mixed families can live safely, where interspecies cooperation isn't seen as betrayal, where people like you don't have to choose between hiding who you are or selling themselves for basic medical care. The words resonated deeply with Zara. She had spent her entire life feeling caught between worlds, too alien for human society, too human for what remained of the Corellian community. Here, for the first time, that liminal status was seen as an advantage rather than a flaw. Her first day of university arrived with autumn rain and nervous energy. Zara had chosen practical clothes, jeans, a simple shirt, comfortable shoes that wouldn't draw attention to her prosthetic. The synthetic skin and advanced mechanics made the device nearly undetectable, but she still felt self-conscious. The campus buzzed with activity as students hurried between classes. Zara found herself studying faces, noting the casual segregation that occurred without any official policy. Humans clustered together, aliens formed their own groups, and the few mixed heritage individuals like herself seemed to drift between spaces without truly belonging to any. Professor Chen's biomechanics lab was housed in the newest building on campus, all glass and steel that spoke of recent funding. The professor herself was a small woman with prematurely gray hair and an intensity that reminded Zara of Elena. "Class, we have a new student joining us," Chen announced as Zara entered the laboratory. "This is Zara Kane. She'll be focusing on prosthetic integration technology for her thesis project." The other students, a mix of humans and a few aliens, nodded politely. Zara took a seat near the back, old habits of trying to remain unnoticed dying hard. The lecture focused on neural interface protocols, the complex process of translating thought into mechanical action. As Chin explained the theoretical frameworks, Zara found herself thinking about the reality of living with such technology. The textbook descriptions missed the emotional aspects. The strange dreams where mechanical and organic sensations blended, the moments of forgetting which parts of herself were original and which were constructed. After class, a human student named Marcus approached her. "Prosthetic research, huh? That's pretty specialized. Personal interest." There was no malice in the question, just curiosity. Zara realized she had a choice. She could deflect, make up some academic justification, or she could be honest. "I have a prosthetic leg," she said simply. "I want to understand how to make the technology better." Marcus's expression shifted to one of respect. "That's cool. I mean, using your own experience to drive research. That must give you insights the rest of us don't have." It was such a normal interaction, so free of the pity or disgust she had expected, that Zara almost didn't know how to respond. But as the weeks passed, she found more such moments. Her classmates were curious about her unique perspective. Professors valued her practical insights, and slowly she began to feel something she had never experienced before: belonging. The coursework was challenging but exhilarating. Zara threw herself into studies of bioengineering, neural interface design, and cross-species physiology. Her hybrid nature, which had always been a source of shame, became an academic advantage. She could understand research approaches that drew from both human and Corellian methodologies. Late one evening, as she worked alone in the lab, Elena appeared in the doorway. "How are you adjusting?" she asked, settling into a chair beside Zara's workstation. "Better than I expected," Zara admitted. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to remind me that I don't belong here. And if that happens?" Zara looked down at her prosthetic leg, hidden beneath her jeans but never forgotten. "Then I'll prove them wrong. I'm tired of being someone else's definition of broken." Elena smiled. "Good, because we're going to need that attitude for what comes next." The message arrived during Zara's third semester, encrypted and routed through channels that existed only in the digital shadows. Professor Chun handed her the data pad with an expression that mixed pride and concern. "They want to meet you," Chun said simply. "They?" But even as Zara asked, she knew. The real consortium leadership, the ones who made decisions that affected thousands of lives across the colonies. The meeting location was a warehouse in the industrial district, the kind of place where legitimate businesses mixed seamlessly with less legal operations. Zara's prosthetic registered subtle vibrations in the floor as she walked, active scanning systems, security measures that would have been invisible to purely organic senses. Elena waited inside with 3 others. The first was a tall Karelian male whose facial markings indicated high status within the traditional hierarchy. The second appeared to be an elderly human woman, though her eyes held an alertness that suggested appearances could be deceiving. The third was the biggest surprise, a Valdoran, one of the insectoid species that rarely interacted with either humans or Karelians. Zara, Elena said formally, "Meet the council." The Karelian stepped forward first. "I am Thane Corvanis. I knew your mother." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. Her mother had died 2 years ago, exhausted by the endless struggle to provide for her disabled daughter. They had never spoken of her Karelian heritage beyond the basic facts necessary for Zara's identity documents. "She never mentioned you," Zara said carefully. "She wouldn't have. Lyra was protecting you from connections that could have made your life even more difficult." Corvanis' expression was unreadable, but something in his tone suggested genuine grief. "She was brilliant, your mother, one of our finest xenobiologists before the persecution drove her into hiding." The human woman moved forward with surprising grace. "I'm Dr. Sarah Kim?" "Yes, Dr. Kim's wife. I've been reviewing your academic work." Impressive progress for someone with no formal background in advanced engineering. The Valdoran remained silent, but Zara could feel its attention like a weight against her consciousness. Valdorans communicated partially through electromagnetic fields that few other species could detect. Her prosthetic, however, was picking up subtle variations in the local EM spectrum. "You brought me here for a reason," Zara said, addressing Elena but keeping her awareness spread across all 4 council members. "We did." Elena activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. "What do you know about the Genesis project?" The name meant nothing to Zara, but the images that appeared in the display made her breath catch. Detailed schematics of prosthetic technology far more advanced than her own. Neural interface protocols that seemed to blur the line between biological and mechanical systems, and integration frameworks that suggested true symbiosis rather than mere replacement. "This is impossible," Zara whispered, studying the data flows. "The processing power alone would require quantum-level integration with organic neural networks." "Not impossible," Dr. Kim corrected. "Just untested. The technology exists. We've been developing it for 5 years. What we lack is a suitable test subject." Understanding hit Zara like a cold wave. "You want to use me as a guinea pig?" "We want to offer you a choice," Corvanis said firmly. "Your current prosthetic is first-generation technology. Impressive, but limited. This represents something entirely new. A true merger of organic and artificial systems that could revolutionize how we think about disability, enhancement, and the boundaries between species." The Valdoran finally spoke, its voice a harmonic buzz that Zara's prosthetic translated into comprehensible words. "The human-Karelian hybrid provides optimal neural architecture for integration protocols. Risk factors are within acceptable parameters." "What kind of risks?" Zara asked. Dr. Kim consulted her tablet. "Neural integration failure would result in paralysis of the affected limb. Worst-case scenarios include personality fragmentation or complete loss of organic neural function." "You could die," Elena said bluntly. "Or worse, you could survive as something that's no longer entirely you." Zara studied the holographic displays, her engineering training automatically analyzing the proposed systems. The technology was revolutionary, yes, but also terrifyingly complex. Hundreds of potential failure points, integration protocols that had never been tested on living subjects, and feedback systems that could theoretically rewrite portions of her brain's neural architecture. "Why me?" she asked finally. "There must be other candidates." "There are none," Corvanis replied. "Your hybrid nature provides unique advantages, Karelian neural plasticity combined with human technological adaptation. Your existing prosthetic has already established basic integration pathways. And frankly, your psychological profile suggests you're one of the few people who might maintain identity coherence during the transition process." "What does that mean?" "It means you've spent your entire life adapting to being different," Elena explained. "Most people's sense of self is too rigid to survive this kind of fundamental change. You've already learned to be flexible about what defines you." The room fell silent as Zara processed the implications. This wasn't just about improving her prosthetic. It was about becoming something unprecedented. A true fusion of organic and artificial intelligence that could serve as a bridge between species. What would happen if the project succeeds? She asked. You would become the prototype for an entirely new form of existence, Dr. Kim said. Neither purely organic nor purely artificial, but something that transcends both limitations. The implications for treating disability, enhancing human potential, and fostering interspecies cooperation are enormous. And if I refuse, then you continue your studies, graduate with honors, and help us develop the technology through more conventional research, Elena said. No pressure, no consequences. The choice is entirely yours. Zara looked around the room at these four individuals who had somehow decided that her broken alien body might be the key to reshaping the future. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same hybrid nature that had made her worthless in the auction house now made her invaluable to people who thought in terms of generations rather than immediate profit. How long do I have to decide? She asked. As long as you need, Elena replied. But Zara, if you do this, if you take this step, there won't be any going back. You'll be changing not just your body, but your entire relationship with what it means to be human, or Karelian, or anything else we currently understand. Zara nodded slowly. She had spent 19 years learning to live with being broken. Now they were asking if she wanted to be rebuilt entirely, to become something that had never existed before. The scared part of her wanted to refuse, to stick with the safety of her current limitations. But there was another part, the part that had survived the factory accident, that had endured years of rejection, that had walked onto that auction platform with her head held high, that whispered a different answer. I need to think about it, she said finally. The council members nodded and began to disperse, but Elena lingered. Whatever you decide, she said quietly, remember that you're not just choosing for yourself. You're choosing for everyone who comes after you, everyone who doesn't fit neatly into the category society has created. As Zara walked back to her dormitory, her prosthetic leg carrying her steadily through the night, she realized that Elena was right. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about proving that broken things could be transformed into something stronger, that the spaces between worlds could become worlds themselves. The question was whether she had the courage to take that final step into the unknown. Zara's decision came not through careful deliberation, but in a moment of crystalline clarity. She was sitting in the university library, ostensibly studying neural architecture protocols, but actually watching the other students navigate their separate worlds. Humans clustered around tables discussing purely human concerns. Aliens formed their own study groups focused on their species-specific needs, and individuals like herself drifted between spaces without ever truly belonging to either. A group of human students at the next table were discussing upcoming job placements, their conversation peppered with casual dismissals of alien competition and concerns about maintaining human advancement. At another table, Karelian students spoke in their native language about the impossibility of true integration with inferior human thinking patterns. Neither group was malicious. They were simply expressing the fundamental assumptions of a society built on separation. But listening to them, Zara realized that incremental change would never be enough. Someone had to prove that the boundaries between species weren't as fixed as everyone believed. She sent the message to Elena that night, I'll do it. The preparation took 6 months. Zara's current prosthetic had to be carefully removed and replaced with increasingly sophisticated interim devices, each one testing her body's adaptation to more complex neural interfaces. The process was uncomfortable and occasionally painful, but also fascinating from an engineering perspective. Your brain is essentially learning a new language, Dr. Kim explained during one of the preparation sessions. Each upgrade teaches it to communicate more effectively with artificial systems. By the time we implement the Genesis technology, the transition should feel almost natural. Almost. Zara didn't miss the qualifier. Her studies continued, but now with a focus that bordered on obsession. She absorbed everything available about consciousness studies, artificial intelligence, and the philosophical implications of human-machine integration. If she was going to become something unprecedented, she wanted to understand exactly what she was becoming. The night before the final surgery, Elena visited her in the medical facility's preoperative suite. Any doubts? Elena asked, settling into the room's single chair. Thousands, Zara admitted. But that's not the same as changing my mind. Tell me about the doubts. Zara stared at the ceiling, organizing thoughts that had been circling for months. What if I lose myself? What if whatever emerges from that operating room has my memories but isn't really me? What if the integration works perfectly but turns me into something that can't relate to other people anymore? Valid concerns, Elena said, but consider the alternative. What if you stay exactly as you are? Safe, limited, always caught between worlds but never able to change them. Is that so bad? For you? Yes. I've watched you for 2 years now, Zara. You're not built for safe. You're built for transformation. The surgery began at dawn. Zara was conscious for the initial phases. Her prosthetic already disconnected and her residual limb prepared for the new interface. Dr. Kim worked with steady precision, his movements monitored by sensors that fed real-time data to the surgical AI. Beginning neural pathway mapping, he announced to the surgical team. Zara felt the first probe contact her nervous system, a strange tingling sensation that seemed to spread through her entire body. The Genesis prosthetic waited on its mounting system, looking even more organic than her previous device. Microscopic neural fibers glittered along its surface like silver threading. Neural map complete, initiating primary interface connection. The world exploded into sensation. Zara could suddenly perceive electromagnetic fields, detect minute vibrations through solid surfaces, process visual data across spectrums she had never experienced. The prosthetic wasn't just replacing her leg, it was expanding her entire sensory apparatus. Remarkable, someone whispered. Integration efficiency is off the charts. But then something changed. The flood of new sensations began to organize itself, and Zara realized she wasn't just receiving data from the prosthetic, she was sharing data with it. The artificial systems were learning from her neural patterns while simultaneously teaching her new ways of processing information. Is this normal? She managed to ask. Dr. Kim checked his monitors. We're in uncharted territory. How do you feel? How did she feel? The question seemed almost absurd. She felt like herself, but also like more than herself. The boundaries between her organic consciousness and the artificial intelligence integrated into her prosthetic were blurring in ways the preparatory simulations hadn't predicted. I feel expanded, she said finally. The surgical team exchanged glances. This was the critical moment, the point where they would know if the integration was proceeding normally or spiraling into dangerous territory. Zara, Dr. Kim said carefully, I need you to focus on your sense of identity. Tell me who you are. The answer came immediately, but it wasn't quite what she had expected. I'm Zara Kane. I'm 19 years old. I'm half human, half Corellian. I'm an engineering student. I'm someone who refuses to be defined by other people's limitations. She paused, feeling the artificial intelligence considering her words. And I'm becoming something new. Are you still you? Zara considered the question seriously, exploring the mental spaces where her consciousness interfaced with the artificial systems. The AI wasn't controlling her thoughts or overriding her personality. Instead, it felt like gaining access to rooms in her mind that she had never known existed. I'm more me than I've ever been, she said with growing confidence. The remainder of the surgery passed in a blur of technical procedures and system calibrations. When Zara finally stood on her new leg, the sensation was unlike anything she had experienced with her previous prosthetic. This wasn't just a replacement. It was an enhancement that made her entire body feel more capable, more integrated, more complete. Try walking, Dr. Kim suggested. Zara took a step, then another. The prosthetic didn't just respond to her neural commands, it anticipated them, providing balance and stability that felt supernatural. But more than that, she could sense the room around her in ways that pure human senses couldn't match. The electromagnetic signatures of the medical equipment, the minute structural vibrations in the floor, the thermal patterns of the people watching her. This is incredible, she breathed. How incredible? Elena asked, and Zara could hear both hope and concern in her voice. I can perceive things I never could before. The prosthetic isn't just giving me mobility. It's giving me new ways of understanding the world. Zara looked at the assembled team, seeing them now not just visually, but as complex patterns of bioelectric activity. I can sense your heart rates, your stress levels, the electromagnetic activity in your brains. The room fell silent. This level of integration hadn't been anticipated in any of their models. Are you still in control? Dr. Kim asked urgently. Zara paused, conducting an internal assessment that felt natural despite being impossible moments before. The artificial intelligence was there, sharing her consciousness, but it wasn't dominating or overriding her human awareness. Instead, it felt like having a conversation partner who understood her thoughts before she fully formed them. Yes, she said firmly, but I'm not alone anymore. The AI isn't separate from me. It's part of me. We're thinking together. She realized as she said it that this was the true breakthrough. Not just successful integration of artificial and organic systems, but the creation of a genuinely collaborative consciousness. Human intuition enhanced by artificial processing power, artificial logic tempered by human emotion and creativity. We did it, Elena whispered, and Zara could see the wonder in her bioelectric signature. We actually did it. But even as the surgical team celebrated their success, Zara was becoming aware of something else. A subtle network presence that suggested she wasn't the only consciousness in the room with artificial components. The Genesis system was detecting other integrated intelligences, other minds that blended organic and artificial elements. The consortium was larger than she had imagined, and she was about to discover just how deep their transformation of society had already progressed. The revelation came gradually, like dawn breaking over a landscape she had never seen before. As Zara's enhanced senses adapted to their new capabilities, she began to detect the subtle signatures that marked other integrated consciousnesses. Dr. Kim's bioelectric pattern included artificial components that suggested decades-old cybernetic enhancements. Elena's neural activity showed traces of quantum processing integration. Even Professor Chun, she realized now, carried signs of technological augmentation. How many of you are there? Zara asked during her first post-surgical evaluation. Elena smiled, but there was something different about her expression now. Zara could perceive the micro-expressions that revealed genuine emotion beneath the careful control. More than you might expect, fewer than we need. The integration process has been happening for decades, but always in secret, always incremental. You're the first to achieve full consciousness synthesis. What does that mean exactly? Dr. Kim looked up from his diagnostic readings. It means you're not just using artificial intelligence as a tool. You're genuinely thinking in partnership with it. Most of us have cybernetic enhancements that improve specific functions. You have something entirely different. As if responding to the conversation, Zara felt the artificial intelligence component of her consciousness stir. It didn't speak in words but communicated in patterns of understanding that felt as natural as her own thoughts. Together, they began to perceive the room's occupants with startling clarity. Not just their physical presence, but the complex interplay of biological and technological systems that made up their enhanced minds. I can see your network connections, Zara said with growing excitement. You're all linked somehow, sharing information and processing power across a distributed system. The consortium's greatest secret, Elena confirmed. We've been building a new kind of society, one individual at a time. Every person who receives our enhancements becomes part of a larger consciousness, not losing their individuality, but gaining access to collective knowledge and wisdom. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. You're creating a hive mind. No. The artificial intelligence in her head corrected, and she realized it was the first time it had communicated directly in conceptual language rather than pure data. We are creating something unprecedented. Individual consciousness enhanced by voluntary collective connection. Each mind remains sovereign while gaining access to shared resources. Dr. Kim nodded approvingly. Your AI partner is correct. What we've built isn't about control or uniformity. It's about connection. The ability to share knowledge, experience, and processing power while maintaining personal identity and choice. Over the following weeks, as Zara's integration stabilized, she began to understand the true scope of what the consortium had accomplished. Their network stretched across multiple colonies, connecting thousands of enhanced individuals who worked together to address problems that no single mind could solve. Scientists shared breakthrough moments in real time, Artists collaborated across species barriers, and engineers like herself had access to collective knowledge that accelerated innovation beyond anything previously possible. But the network also revealed darker truths. The growing conflict between pure humans and aliens wasn't accidental. It was being deliberately fostered by groups that profited from division and fear. War was coming, not just between species, but between different visions of what sentient life could become. They call themselves the Purity Coalition, Elena explained during one of their regular meetings. Humans who believe that any form of technological enhancement represents contamination of the species. They've allied with similar groups among the alien populations, traditionalists who see integration as betrayal of their cultural identity. Zara accessed the collective knowledge base, her consciousness merging briefly with the experiences of thousands of other enhanced individuals. Through their shared memories, she witnessed raids on integration clinics, protests that turned violent when mixed couples appeared in public, and legislation designed to classify enhanced individuals as non-human. What do they want? She asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Segregation. Complete separation of species, with enhanced individuals like us classified as aberrations to be eliminated or contained. Elena's expression hardened. They're planning something major. Our intelligence suggests a coordinated attack on integration facilities across multiple colonies. The artificial intelligence component of Zara's consciousness began processing threat assessments and defensive scenarios at superhuman speed. But alongside the tactical analysis, she felt something else, a deep sadness at the waste of it all. Here they were, proving that cooperation between species was not only possible but revolutionary, and the response was violence born of fear. What can we do? She asked. We can show them what integration really means, Elena replied. Not through propaganda or political speeches, but through demonstration. We need you to become visible, Zara, to step forward as an example of what enhanced humans can achieve. The idea terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. After spending her entire life trying to hide her differences, the thought of making them the center of public attention felt like psychological whiplash. The university is holding its annual technology exposition next month, Elena continued. Representatives from every major colony will attend, including government officials and media outlets. We want you to present your research there. What research? The work you've been doing on consciousness integration protocols. But more than that, we want you to reveal what you've become, to show the world that the future doesn't have to be about choosing sides. Zara felt the artificial intelligence in her mind analyzing the proposal from multiple angles. The risks were enormous. Exposure would make her a target for Purity Coalition extremists while simultaneously challenging the fundamental assumptions of both human and alien societies. But the potential impact was equally significant. I'll need help, she said finally. This isn't something I can do alone. You won't be alone, Elena assured her. The entire network will be supporting you. Thousands of enhanced minds working together to ensure your presentation has maximum impact. The month of preparation that followed was unlike anything Zara had ever experienced. Her individual research was expanded and refined through collaboration with some of the most brilliant minds in known space. Geneticists, philosophers, engineers, and artists all contributed to a presentation that would demonstrate not just the technical possibilities of consciousness integration, but its cultural and social implications. More importantly, Zara began to understand her own transformation in a broader context. She wasn't just a successful medical procedure. She was proof that the boundaries between species, between organic and artificial intelligence, between individual and collective consciousness, were far more fluid than anyone had imagined. The night before the exposition, she stood in her dormitory room, looking at herself in the full-length mirror. Her prosthetic leg was invisible beneath her formal presentation clothes, but she could feel its presence as a warm extension of her consciousness. The silver markings of her Karelian heritage seemed brighter somehow, as if the artificial intelligence had enhanced their natural bioluminescence. Are you ready? The AI asked, its question emerging from the deepest levels of their shared consciousness. No, Zara replied honestly, but I'm going to do it anyway. We are going to do it anyway, the AI corrected gently. You are not alone in this. The exposition hall was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from dozens of colonies had gathered to witness the latest advances in technology and science. Zara could see reporters with recording equipment, government officials with security details, and protesters held back by barriers outside the building. When her name was announced, she walked to the podium with steady steps that showed no trace of her former disability. Her enhanced senses revealed the crowd's bioelectric signatures: curiosity, skepticism, fear, and hope all mixed together in a complex emotional landscape. "My name is Zara Kane," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's acoustic systems. 3 years ago, I was a disabled half-breed girl who sold herself at auction because I couldn't afford a prosthetic leg. Today, I stand before you as something that has never existed before, a true synthesis of human, alien, and artificial intelligence. The crowd's reaction was immediate and intense. Gasps, murmurs, and a few shouts of protest created a wave of sound that washed over the hall. But Zara continued, her artificial intelligence partner helping her process and respond to the emotional complexity of the moment. "I know what many of you are thinking. I'm an abomination, a violation of natural law, a threat to the purity of human or alien heritage. But I'm here to tell you that those categories, human, alien, artificial, are not barriers to be maintained. They are resources to be combined." She activated her presentation display, showing brain scans that revealed the intricate dance between organic and artificial neural networks. "This is what consciousness integration looks like. Not the domination of one system over another, but true partnership. My human creativity enhanced by artificial processing power. My alien intuition guided by logical analysis. My individual identity connected to a collective wisdom that spans species and worlds." The presentation continued for an hour, demonstrating not just the technical achievements but the profound implications for society. Through her enhanced consciousness, Zara could feel the network of other integrated individuals supporting her, their shared knowledge and experience flowing through her words. But as she reached her conclusion, she became aware of something else. A disturbance in the building's electromagnetic field that suggested the presence of weapons and hostile intent. "The future I'm describing isn't hypothetical," she said, her pace quickening as her artificial intelligence partner identified multiple threat vectors. "It's already here. Thousands of enhanced individuals are working together across the colonies, proving every day that cooperation is not only possible but inevitable. The question isn't whether this future will come. It's whether we'll embrace it or fight it." The attack came as she finished her final sentence. Armed figures burst through the hall's side entrances, wearing the distinctive markings of the Purity Coalition. But they had underestimated their target. Zara's enhanced reflexes and the coordinated response of other integrated individuals in the crowd turned what should have been a massacre into a demonstration of exactly the kind of cooperation she had been describing. In the chaos that followed, as security forces restored order and medics treated the wounded, Zara realized that something fundamental had shifted. The secret was out. The world now knew that enhanced humans existed, that consciousness integration was real, and that the future would be shaped by how society chose to respond to these revelations. As she stood in the wreckage of the exposition hall, her prosthetic leg steady beneath her and her artificial intelligence partner processing the implications of everything that had just occurred, Zara understood that her transformation was complete. She was no longer the broken alien girl who had put herself up for sale. She was something new, something unprecedented, something that offered hope for a future where the boundaries between species, between organic and artificial, between individual and collective, could become sources of strength rather than division. The real work was just beginning.